In 1953, a war ended and 2 million landmines were buried across a strip of land the size of New York City. For 70 years, no farmer has plowed that soil. No developer has broken ground, no tourist has set foot inside. The only things that have entered freely are seeds carried by the wind and animals that do not read warning signs. Today, that strip of earth contains 38% of South Korea's endangered species on just 1.6% of its land. Red-crowned cranes winter among minefields. An Asiatic black bear cub was photographed where soldiers once died in firefights, and 6,168 species call the most militarized border on Earth their home. The Korean DMZ was never meant to be a nature reserve, but it became the greatest one the world has ever accidentally created. To understand how a war zone became a wildlife sanctuary, you need to picture what this land looked like before the fighting started. The area that is now the DMZ was not wilderness, it was farmland. Rice paddies, villages, families who had worked the same soil for generations. The Gyeongwon Basin alone was one of Korea's top rice-producing regions. Researchers have mapped 533 named settlements that once existed within what are now the DMZ boundaries. Every single one of those villages was emptied when the armistice was signed on July 27, 1953. The residents were given no choice. They left behind their homes, their fields, their livestock, and then the mines went in. Between 1 and 2 million landmines were buried across the zone and surrounding areas. South Korea and the United States planted roughly 1 million. North Korea planted close to another million on their side. The mines include American M14 anti-personnel mines, small plastic devices weighing just 3 ounces with a 100-year lifespan. There are bounding fragmentation mines designed to launch into the air before detonating. And there are North Korean wooden mines, nearly invisible to metal detectors. Here is the detail that makes the DMZ truly terrifying. During Korea's monsoon season, lightweight plastic and wooden mines wash downstream in floodwaters and migrate far from where they were originally buried. Nobody knows exactly how many mines exist anymore. Nobody knows where they all are. South Korea's defense ministry told lawmakers that at current removal rates, clearing mines on just the southern side would take between 200 and 489 years. And that is why nature got a 70-year head start. The transformation did not happen overnight. It followed a process ecologists call succession, and the DMZ became a textbook example. In the first decade after the war, grasses and weeds colonized bomb craters, abandoned paddies and trenches. Pioneer species moved in, the tough plants that thrive where nothing else can. By the 1960s and 70s, those former rice fields had converted into open grasslands, and those grasslands became exactly what one of the world's rarest birds needed. The red-crowned crane is listed as endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Fewer than 4,600 exist on the planet. These birds stand 5 feet tall with a wingspan over 8 feet, and they need vast, undisturbed wetlands to survive the winter. The DMZ gave them exactly that. In the 2023 winter census, 1,291 red-crowned cranes were counted at Gyeongwon alone. That is roughly 30% of every red-crowned crane alive on Earth, wintering in a minefield. Another 5,022 white-naped cranes were counted at the same site, a population increase of over 2,300% since the year 2000. 7 of the world's 15 crane species are found in the Korean DMZ region. 98% of the red-crowned and white-naped cranes that winter in South Korea do so within the border zone. But the cranes are just the beginning of what is living inside. Since 2014, the National Institute of Ecology has operated 92 unmanned cameras throughout the DMZ. And what those cameras have captured reads like a catalogue of species that were supposed to be gone from this part of the world. The most dramatic discovery came on October 12, 2018. A camera in the eastern DMZ captured a clear photograph of a young Asiatic black bear, estimated at 8 to 9 months old. The Ministry of Environment did not announce it until May of 2019, after military security review. But the implications were enormous. The presence of a cub that young in an area sealed by barbed wire fencing strongly suggests a breeding pair living somewhere inside the zone. An official from the Environment Ministry declared it, quote, "Once again proves the exceptional ecological value of the DMZ. The cameras have also captured musk deer, a hornless species with distinctive protruding fangs classified as vulnerable. They have recorded yellow-throated martens, the DMZ's apex predator, traveling in small groups through the forest. Leopard cats, Eurasian otters swimming freely along rivers that cross between North and South Korea, Siberian flying squirrels, and dense populations of water deer have all been confirmed as residents. Then there are the animals that might be there but have never been proven. Soldiers have claimed sightings of armor leopards. Troops have reported finding evidence of big cats moving through the zone, but no camera has ever captured definitive proof. As for the Siberian tiger, Korea's most iconic predator, the last confirmed sighting on the peninsula was in 1921. That has not stopped everyone from looking. A former television cameraman named Lim Sun-nam quit his job, sold his house, and moved in with his brother so he could search the DMZ forests full-time for tiger evidence. He spent 7 years tracking footprints, collecting fur samples, and interviewing witnesses. He even traveled to Russia's Far East to learn tracking techniques from experts who study the last remaining wild Siberian tigers. Most scientists believe the prints he found belong to wild dogs. Lim remains unconvinced. If you are finding this valuable, hit subscribe. We cover stories like this every week. Now, the DMZ is remarkable on its own, but it becomes even more striking when you compare it to other places where humans were forced to leave. In 1986, the worst nuclear accident in history forced the evacuation of the area around Chernobyl in Ukraine. The exclusion zone covers roughly 2,800 square kilometers of land contaminated with radioactive fallout. Researchers expected a biological wasteland. Instead, they found wolf populations 7 times higher than in nearby uncontaminated reserves. Lynx, European bison, and brown bears all returned for the first time in over a century. Jim Smith of the University of Portsmouth reached a conclusion that should make every conservationist uncomfortable. Nature flourishes when humans are removed from the equation, he said, even after the world's worst nuclear accident. The pattern repeats everywhere humans have been forced out. The United Nations buffer zone in Cyprus, divided since 1974, was found sheltering the Cyprus spiny mouse and a type of skink, both species that scientists had declared extinct until they were discovered thriving in the no-man's land. The former death strip between East and West Germany, now called the German Greenbelt, stretches 1,393 kilometers and hosts over 1,200 threatened species. The lesson is consistent and uncomfortable. Landmines, radiation, and military standoffs are all less destructive to wildlife than ordinary human development. Farming, building, paving, and developing land does more ecological damage than war. And that leads to the central paradox of the DMZ. The safest place for nature is the most dangerous place for humans, and the moment it becomes safe for humans, it becomes dangerous for nature. This is not a theoretical problem. It is already happening on the edges. A coalition of counties bordering the DMZ lobbies constantly to open the civilian control zone for construction. Proposals include resort developments, railway reconnection projects, and industrial parks. Solar panel installations and greenhouse construction are already converting crane habitat near the border. Green Korea United's director Dae-som Lee has noted that large-scale civil engineering projects frequently resurface during election cycles or whenever tensions ease. But the existential threat is reunification itself. Researchers who have modeled the scenario predict that reunification would have a devastating effect on wildlife in the border region because rapid land development would destroy habitats. There is a critical legal problem that makes this almost inevitable. Approximately 85% of DMZ land was created by temporarily expropriating private property. If a peace treaty is ever signed, those lands revert to their original owners or their descendants, and they would have every legal right to develop them. The German precedent shows exactly what happens. After reunification in 1990, market forces drove the conversion of collective farms to intensive agriculture. Settlement areas expanded, wetlands shrank. A major highway was built across the former border. The German Greenbelt only survived because a conservationist named Kai Frobel mobilized within 30 days of the Berlin Wall falling, rushing to document and protect the ecology before developers arrived. Here is a detail that captures the strangeness of these divided landscapes better than anything else. 18 years after the German border barrier was physically removed, forest deer in the area still refused to cross where the fence once stood. The boundary existed only in their memory, passed from mothers to fawns through behavior. An invisible wall that no longer existed was still shaping how animals moved through the landscape. Frobel has been in direct consultation with South Korean officials. His message is simple: when the border falls, and it will eventually fall, you will have weeks to act, not months, not years, weeks. South Korea has taken some steps. In 2019, UNESCO approved 2 biosphere reserves in the civilian control zone adjacent to the DMZ. Kim Seung-ho, director of the DMZ Ecology Research Institute, has conducted weekly field surveys for over 20 years, building the most comprehensive ecological database of the zone that exists. And in February 2023, Google partnered with Korean institutions to release the first publicly available 360-degree images from inside the DMZ, giving the world its first virtual glimpse of this forbidden landscape. But the DMZ proper remains without any formal environmental protection. A UNESCO nomination was rejected in 2012 after North Korea actively opposed it, sending letters to 32 council member countries. The 2018 Panmunjom Declaration, where the leaders of North and South Korea planted a tree together, using soil from both nations' sacred mountains, raised hopes for a peace park. Those hopes have since stalled. The Harvard biologist Edward O. Wilson once called the DMZ, quote, Yosemite and Gettysburg all rolled into one. That description captures something essential. This place is simultaneously a monument to human conflict and a testament to nature's resilience. It holds both tragedy and wonder in the same 4-kilometer strip of Earth. 6,168 species are living in a place built to keep armies apart. 38% of South Korea's endangered wildlife survives on 1.6% of its land. And the only reason any of it exists is because 70 years ago, humans made the land too dangerous for themselves. The DMZ was never designed to be a nature reserve, but it has become the most powerful argument that nature does not need our help. It just sometimes needs us to leave.